Welcome to the next stage of the Tees Valley Combine Authority Welcome Back programme, a range of free webinars aimed at businesses in the culture industries and visit economy in the Tees Valley. Each webinar is completely free to access and has been designed to support you and your teams as you adjust to new ways of operating within the current climate today. We are delighted to have partnered up with Tees Valley company Orangebox Training Solutions to bring these bespoke training sessions together in a novel way. Using the very best trainers in their retrospect field, each live stream session will be hosted on the enjoyteesvalley.com website for delegates to revisit at any time or as a resource to signpost colleagues who may have missed the opportunity. During the webinar, you can submit questions which will be answered at the end of the session. So without further delay, let's get started with our first session.
Good afternoon. My name's Andy Fordham. I'm the lead trainer here at Orangebox Training. This afternoon, we're going to have a little look at first aid, some basic first aid, and how it is affected by COVID-19. To start off with just looking at a little bit of the legalities behind it. We're still governed under the Health and Safety Work Act 1974 and the regulations within that, such as the Health and Safety Regulation of 1981. So what does that mean? What does that mean to everybody? Basically, if you still are an employee, an employer, you have to have some sort of first aid cover in retrospect to your risk assessment. So if you've got members of the public coming into your establishment, if you've got customers, then you need to still ensure you've got good first aid cover. So we're going to look at this because since COVID, people have made me a little bit nervous about what they can and can't do in relation to first aid. And the aim of this is to give you some clear insight so we can make sure people are still protected and you're legally covered. That's the legalities out of the way. What we're going to look at to start with, just a reminder more than anything, is to why do first aid? Why have first aid? There's three main aims. The main aims are what's known as the 3 Ps. The 3 Ps. Just to reiterate, just to recover these in first of all. First thing is, as a first aider, my aim as a first aider is to preserve somebody's life, keep them alive where possible. The second P would be to prevent the situation worsening. The last of the 3 Ps then is to promote their recovery. Whenever we have a casualty, it is very important, the first thing we ask for is consent. If I had a casualty, and if you don't mind, I want to give a true life story here of happened to be in Middlesbrough. I was working in an office in Middlesbrough a little while ago. Whilst up in that office, one of the members of the staff came running into the office and just said somebody had been stabbed outside. Me being the first aider, I wasn't going to dilly-dally. I immediately ran over, grabbed the first aid kit and went to assist at the situation, at the scene. There I found this young man. Yes, he had been stabbed, stood in our doorway of the premises that I was working in, holding his side, clearly stabbed. First thing I asked, is it okay to touch you? I explained who I was, I explained, I'm Andy, I'm a first aider, I work here, can I help you? He said, no, do not touch me. The second he said that, I have to adhere to that, I have to respect his state. So at that stage, I didn't touch him. However, I did say, would you like to sit down? Then he said, no, I don't want to sit down. He said, if I sit down, then I'll lay down. If I lay down, I may die. The guy was, admittedly, under the influence of drugs at this moment in time, so it wasn't quite compos mentis. With that said, though, because he had said no to all of my requests, I still had to adhere to good basic first aid. I monitored the situation, I made sure he was okay. Now, if he was to have gone unconscious on me, now he can't make a rational decision, I could have continued down and done some first aid on him, despite the fact he had said no. The good news on this story is that the young man stayed awake, he stayed fine. Yes, he was bleeding quite heavily, but the ambulance was very quick on the scene. As soon as he saw the blues and toots, saw ambulance people in uniform approaching him, they allowed them to touch him, they dealt with him and took him away. And subsequently, he actually comes to the office a few days later just to say thank you very much and that he was okay after his operation. But this is the consent. This is so important. This hasn't changed in COVID times. We still need to adhere to these basic rules. This is why I'm highlighting them to you now. So, responsibilities of a first aider. What are our responsibilities? Again, just because it's COVID, and I will, where I can, embed and show you where there's any changes, but when we arrive at the scene, the first thing we need to do is ensure that scene is safe. This is where COVID does come in. Got to make sure that I'm not going to put myself in harm's way. There's no point in having a casualty and me becoming a casualty on top of that. So I make sure the scene is safe. If that means if safe to do so, move a casualty out of the way, be it a car accident, be it, I don't know, scaffolding and bricks are falling off it in your place of work and you need to move them, or it's a heavy traffic area with people coming footfall into hospitality events and things and they're in the way. Get them to a place which is safe for them and safe for you to administer your first aid. Next thing we need to do then is contact the emergency services. Still, get on the phone, get 999 call, get 112 call, get the ambulance here as quick as you can. Remember, we are just the first aider. Where possible, we want to hand this over to the more trained and skilled operatives that can look after that casualty and promote their recovery. From this, though, we prioritise treatments. This is known as triage. Again, it hasn't changed. Breathing, breaks and burns. So if somebody's not breathing properly, the first thing we need to do is they're going to go straight to the height of our they need dealing with first. If they're not getting oxygen in their body, they're right at the top of the tree, right the way down to the bottom, maybe someone suffering from shock, running around screaming around the place. Well, I know they're alive, I know they're breathing, I know that they are a little bit number one prioritising. Depending on how many people I've got to deal with as a first aider, I'll prioritise that and triage that. That's one of my responsibilities. This is an important one. A lot of people, maybe in the workplace, can forget. As the first aider, it is my job to clean up the scene afterwards. There's a general rule of thumb, I'm not covering bandages on this webinar, but if I was to be bandaging in somebody and I was to put 2 dressings on somebody and then 2 dressings were sort of seeped full of blood, and I'd take them off and then put a fresh dressing on, maybe a second dressing on, yeah, and the ambulance arrives to take them away, and I've got 2 dressings that are covered in blood, it's my responsibility for correct disposal of them dressings. I've got to be mindful of getting things like blood-borne viruses, BBVs, your hepatitis, your HIVs. So I can't just be putting these dressings into a bin, yeah, any old bin. They're going to need correctly disposed of in HAZ bags. If for some reason your establishment hasn't got these in the first aid kit, a yellow bag in the first aid kit, I don't mean to be crude or rude in any shape, way or form, but ladies' sanitised bins would suffice because it is just a piece of material covered in blood and be correctly disposed of there. Also, we've got to think about reporting the incident. So a good establishment will have a recording system, an accident book. Is it RIDDOR reportable? I'm not going to go too heavy into reporting of injuries, diseases, dangerous occurrence regulation, but at the end of the day, it's a consideration as the first aider. Get it in the accident book, good true recording of what actually happened, what first aid's been administered, and yeah, who was involved and all the usual good stuff there. Just follow your reporting system, you won't go far wrong. Now, COVID. There's a slide hopefully you've just had a chance to see come up on your screen now. It's all about minimising infection. Okay, you can see as I'm dressed right now, I do have some gloves on. A good first aider, first, as soon as they get called to the scene, the first thing they should be thinking about is barrier devices. Getting some gloves on. If you've got face masks on already, then yes, you might need it for certain things. And I will be putting one on when I do a demonstration shortly. But if we haven't got that, other things. Again, as you put into my pocket, it's in my prepared earlier. So I've got a pair of rubber gloves, obviously got some on my hands, and a face shield. I'm not going to take the face shield out of its package, but once you do, it'll look something like this. So you've got a face shield. And again, this will become more apparent in a second when I start doing some demonstrations. Now I've got barrier devices. Certainly when we're thinking maybe CPR, this will come in very handy because I'm actually going to get close to the casualty. And if we understand how COVID is transmitted through the air, through droplets, hence why we're keeping 2 meters apart, hence why we're putting face masks on, at the end of the day, you're going to get close to that casualty. So we need to minimize that chance of infection getting across to yourself. Barrier devices will do that. One thing that I would like to highlight at this point is we're not legally bound to administer first aid to anybody in this country if we don't want to. It is a judgment call on your confidence, your skills, and your ability. That is a right with us within Great Britain that we do not have to administer first aid. So if I feel I'm going to put myself in harm's way by dealing with a casualty and I haven't got barrier devices, I'm not legally bound to carry out first aid if I don't want to. It is a judgment call. I personally, with COVID, with bloodborne viruses, will barrier up and get myself covered up best I can. I can show alternatives when I do my demonstrations in a second. If you haven't got barrier devices such as the face shield at hand, I will show you how we can possibly still do something rather than nothing to try and preserve the life of our casualty. So this is important. Other things to consider. Washing of hands. COVID at the moment, we're getting heavily informed about the importance of washing hands. So make sure your hands are washed before you put gloves on. Once I've dealt with one casualty, if I'm going on to the second casualty, take these gloves off, put a fresh one on. Don't want cross contaminations. And again, most important here, keep myself safe. So where possible, get your barrier devices on. What we're going to move on to now then is what's known as the primary survey. And I will demonstrate the primary survey so you can see it in action. Might be a nice gentle reminder for those that are first day trained and you've got a little bit of maybe skill fake, haven't used it for a while, haven't seen it for a while. So I will do a demonstration, but I just also want to highlight the acronym that reminds us of the primary survey, which is Doctors ABCD. It should be coming on your screens now. So we've got Doctors ABCD. Just to reiterate, and then I'll talk about it first, I'll do an explanation, then I'll do a demonstration with a casualty. First thing we're going to check for is danger. As I said to you before there, it's important that I keep myself safe and the casualties safe. So I'm checking for danger. Barrier devices on if possible. That's danger covered. Next thing I'm going to check for response to the casualty. The casualty may just be laying on the floor, getting an afternoon nap, for all I know, and then I come along. How do I know they are unconscious? How do I know if they are responsive to touch, noise, me being close? I need to carry that out, so I'll do what's known as the response test. Once I've confirmed that person is definitely unconscious, I would need to shout for help. I'm going to need to get an ambulance here. First aider, yes. But at the end of the day, I would rather the emergency services come over and relieve me of my duties, and they are higher trained with better equipment than I'll have. So the next thing I'm going to do is shout for help. Get a member of staff, hopefully to hear me, shouting for help, get them to call 999 or 112, whichever number they prefer, get an ambulance here. When I'm teaching this in a classroom event, what I also teach at this point, and I think this is very important to highlight, I say, once you've called 999, come back, tell me you've done it. There's a couple of reasons for this. When they've come back, I've still got another person now, I'm now a team, I'm working alongside somebody. I might be doing CPR and getting tired at this point, and I might need them to assist me. I may need that person to run off and get a defibrillation machine for me, so they act as my runner. If all I said is shout out, go call 999, and they leave, leave my scene, how do I know when they've called the ambulance? How do I know it's on its way in? How do I, what if I need further assistance? If I tell them to come back, then they're available for me to act as my runner or as my assistant. So that's the S, shout it for help. Whilst they're doing that, they're concurrent activity. I can be opening up the casualties' airways. Again, now, I want to do a demonstration in a second. Obviously, as I open up an airway, and certainly going to possibly bring my face close to them, well within the rules of the 2 metre distancing, the 1 metre distancing, this is your judgment call on this one. You've got to see, is the airway open? And the second B, or the B, is are they breathing? You can put your hand on the stomach, they'll raise and fall of chest when we're checking for breathing. And the question we're asking ourselves now is, are they breathing normally? If they're making noises like this, it could be what's known as agonal breathing, that is not breathing normally, and then you need to go into CPR. That moves on to the C nicely. So CPR, if they're not breathing normally, I'm going to go CPR, and I need to get that defibrillator here. There's your D, your defibrillation. So there's your primary survey. I'm just going to take it back to DRSAB at the moment, because my casualty, my Glarus assistant in a minute is going to join us, will be breathing normally, they're just going to be unconscious. So, can I call my Glarus assistant? Obviously with myself, I'm going to be coming close to a real life casualty. I am going to just put a barrier device on whilst I teach this. This is Mark. Mark, would you like to lay on the floor for me, please, and act as my, just shuffle up a little bit further to my right for me, please. So I have a casualty, or what I perceive to be a casualty in the room. First thing I'm going to do is check for danger. So imagine I'll check for danger, there's no further danger. He's got a barrier device on, I've got a barrier device on at the moment. This may be just somebody that's working in close proximity to you and happen to have, let's say, in your shop, something like that, and they had their face mask on. Not a problem. So I've checked for danger. Is there any danger? Next thing we'll do, that's the D. So doctors are response. This is how we check for response. Just by kneeling beside somebody. If they were just having a little bit of an afternoon snooze, they might pick up on my presence, just me being nearby them. In this case, Mark hasn't. He showed no signs of him coming and showing any response to me being nearby. So I'm now going to just gently shake the shoulders and give a simple command, a verbal command in both ears. And all that command is going to be is, Mark, can you open your eyes? So I'm going to shake the shoulders. Mark, can you open your eyes for me, please? Can you open your eyes for us? In this case, Mark has not opened his eyes, so therefore he's unresponsive. Moving on now to the S. Help. Shout for help. Go to member of staff. Remember 999 112. Come back. Let me know that's done, please. They will be my runner. So imagine now, just for the purposes of this webinar, that somebody has actually came in. I've shouted, call 999, and they're all there. A. Airway. Put my hand on top of the head, hand underneath the chin, and let's just tilt the head back gently. Nice in one smooth motion, okay, because they've got a neck injury. And all I'm doing here is opening up the airway, so that if they've swallowed their tongue, and all that is when somebody swallows their tongue, is when you're unconscious, your muscles relax. Because the tongue is a muscle, it's just relaxed, it's flopped back over the airway. By opening up, by tilting the head back, I'm opening that up, and therefore the tongue gets lifted off the back of the airway, and oxygen can pass through into my casualty. That alone can save a life. Wouldn't it be amazing if that's all we needed to do? They receive a bang on the head, they've gone unconscious, the airway's blocked, they're not receiving oxygen, me opening up that airway, they come round. Wouldn't that be amazing? Save somebody's life. No greater feeling in the world. So let me demonstrate. So hand underneath the chin, hand on top of the forehead, and just gently tilt the head back. Airways open. I'm now going to check for breathing. COVID. We get told about these droplets. At the moment, they've got a barrier device on. I've got a barrier device on. Certainly for this demonstration, it is only a demonstration. I've got to keep myself safe regardless. But I'm going to put my hand on stomach. Let's look for razor fall. I'm going to do this for 10 seconds. And I can see quite clearly Mark's stomach is going up and down. I know he's breathing normally. He's just unconscious. We'll have a look shortly at what makes us go unconscious in a minute. But now, all I'm going to do is put him in what's known as a safe airway position, what's previously known as the recovery position. So I don't mind how you want to term it, but this is how we do it. First of all, hand nearest to us. All we're going to do is put it to one side, as if he's waving and saying hi to me. And this is how I remember it. Again, I use a little bit of humour when I teach, okay, and this one normally is a bit of a laugh. Obviously, I'm not going to hear a laugh on the webinar, but let's just see if we can get some sort of response, and it's probably the best way to remember. So far, hand nearest to me, but just make me saying hi, you don't have to wave it, okay, but just make me saying hi, I'll just put it out to one side. Now, depending on somebody's shoulder, you might be able to have it upright up and down shape, others to the side. But in a minute, hi, so he's waved hi at me. That hand can stay there, it's going to go, no, he's unconscious, he's just going to relax. The back of his hand now goes to his cheek nearest to me. So far we've got hi, cheeky, and I'm going to have to hold that there. If I let go now, if he's unconscious, he'll just flop back to the floor. So I'm going to hold that there. So I've got hi, cheeky. The leg furthest away from myself, I can either put my hand underneath the knee or grab the clothing and just raise his knee in the air. It will naturally flop. So like I'm put my hand underneath it to be fair. Okay, and there we go. And that'll naturally, unconscious casualty, they'll naturally do this. This becomes your fulcrum point, your point over. Just to reiterate, hi, cheeky, can I have my leg over? Don't be saying that out loud on Church Street and Hartlepool on a Friday night with another young lady. Okay, just repeat it in your head to remind you of how to put someone in a recovery position. Once you've rolled them over, bring the leg up like a normal sleeping position, fetal position when you sleep. Ensure the head is tilted back still, so the airway is still open. What we've done now, we've acted as a channel. So if the casualty was to be sick for any reason, we've got to drain away. The stick is not going to go back down and become a risk of choking. And I can monitor my casualty here. They're comfortable, safe airway, airway's open, tongue's not over the back of the throat, and at the minute I've kept safe. What I can do for COVID is step away and monitor from a safe distance and keep passerbys, getting to keep them away. Or I can just keep here and monitor. I've got barrier devices on, mitigation circumstances. I am keeping a monitor of my casualty. Hopefully by this stage, ambulance has rocked up and I can hand them over to more senior people who can deal with it. Thank you very much for my budding volunteer. I'd like to take a seat back with you. Thanks, Mark. Appreciate that, mate. Just for the purpose of this, I'm just going to take my face mask back off again. Oh, that's warm. That's the recovery position looked at. So what makes us go unconscious? On this webinar, we're here for quite a period of time. Just need to tell you just to put barrier devices on, and that'd be COVID. I want to give you a bit more of an enriched webinar to you and just refresh some knowledge that you may have, like I said, may have skill fake, may have not seen it or even been taught it. I'm hoping you've had good quality lessons. Obviously here at Orange Box we pride ourselves on giving quality lessons, so I just want to ensure that we've covered off what can make somebody go unconscious. In a lesson, I would normally see if I can draw this out in the people, but as obviously I'm just presenting this time, I haven't got a live audience in front of me, I'm afraid I'm just going to have to lecture it to you. But the first one is fainting. I'm an ex-soldier. I've been stood there on drill parades before now, and just by stood to attention, chest out, back straight, rah, 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 blood stops circulating to the brain, we stop breathing properly, and I can just faint. Then we've got what's known as intolerance to heat. If you work in hot climates look, let's take the weather just recently, it's been very hot, 27 degrees yesterday. Some people struggle in the heat. Again, just to back this out a little bit, just to give you some contextualisation. My mum lives down in Spain, lucky so and so. I went on holiday a couple of years ago, walking down the street, scorched out, hot summer's day in the middle of August. My mum just fell to the floor like a sack of spuds. I won't lie to you. It says, where's the first aider? Remain calm, go into your training. My initial response was, oh my God, that's my mum laying there. I looked at my stepdad, who happened to just be like casual as anything, and I thought, cool, you've got a good insurance policy out with mum. But anyway, by the by, I then said, you know, I suddenly went into gear. I suddenly went to the training. I went, come on, Andy, you know what to do when someone goes unconscious, breathing normally, recovery position like I've just shown you there. Yeah, and all it was when my mum come round, she went, oh, did I do it again? And I went, do it again. She went, yeah, fainted. And I went, yeah, you just fainted, mum. She goes, it's because of the heat, son. It's just too hot over here for me. Yeah, but what happens if she fell on the floor, smacked her head? That could be a complication now till makes her go unconscious. So my dad very casually stood there, just thinking, oh, she comes round after a couple of minutes, she normally gets up and we crack on. No, in this case, that afternoon, I treated my dad to some first aid lessons at home, which I'm sure you appreciate, but I'm sure my mum appreciates it. Next one, shock. There's all types of different types of shock out there, and I won't steal my thunder at the moment. I do intend to do it later on within this webinar to explain what shock is, just so you've got a greater understanding. But shock is another reason. Another one I just mentioned there, head injury. So this is your H from the word fish, head injury. So think of boxing, somebody gave someone a good right hook, smacked them in the head, they go unconscious in the ring. What made them go unconscious? It was that head impact, that head injury that made them go unconscious. Working in some places, you may be a cook, you may open up your cupboard and a tin falls out, smacks you on the head, you go unconscious. It's important that we realise what made somebody go unconscious, because we may have to brief that emergency services up, tell them why. So we haven't got to be sitting there giving blood pressures or any complications like on ER or anything like that, but you can just say to emergency services, they're unconscious, an object fell out the cupboard, has hit them on the head, I've put them in recovery position, I've monitored them for the last 5 minutes, they're fine, they're breathing normally, and that's a debrief to the emergency services. Other things, strokes. Yeah, so you have a stroke or a heart attack more common, and again, maybe I'll look a little bit at that later on if we get a chance on this webinar to why we have a stroke, what is a stroke and what causes it. But again, we can go unconscious because of this condition. Asphyxiation, now that could be anything from just strangling, bag over their head, swallowing the tongue, this lack of oxygen to the brain, causing them to asphyxiate, so therefore at the end of the day, that could make someone go unconscious. What happens if you're working someone and they're dealing with COSH items, controlled substances, hazardous to health, and without them realising that you can actually absorb poisons through your skin, and they've got poisoned, that can make you go unconscious. So again, just knowing your circumstances, knowing your work environments, it's very important that we understand different types of poison. Epilepsy. We may be working with somebody, we may see this a member of the public have an epileptic seizure. Yeah, and normally the third stage of epilepsy is they go into a deep sleep, only for a short period of time, but technically they're unconscious. Hopefully now, just by observing there, with COVID, you still got the confidence and knowledge to be able to go up, put them in the recovery, safe airway position, and then wait for the ambulance to turn up if necessary. And the last one, diabetes. Yeah, if somebody worked with a guy, he got diagnosed with diabetes, wasn't used to taking medication. Luckily had the foresight to inform me that he had diabetes, made me aware of it. One day in the office, collapsed, found out he wasn't taking his medication, it was linked to his blood sugar levels. So again, quick fix, but at the end of the day, I understood what made him go unconscious. What we're going to move on to now, though, is when we looked at our primary survey, so your doctors, A, B, C, and then we've got the D, the C and the D. The C, cardiopulmonary resuscitation, CPR. I'm going to do a demonstration now of, again, involving with COVID, so barrier devices on, and using the face shield, how we conduct CPR on a casualty. I mentioned earlier on, we should have in our first aid kit, and I'll come back to the decent things like the first aid kit, but I think one of the things we need to be aware of more than anything now is, as first aiders, have we gone and checked our first aid kits? Have we made sure we've got our barrier devices such as face shields in our first aid kits? Because this could be something you need. You're going to come very close to the person's mouth if you wish to do rescue breaths. Because there's no legal requirement to do them. I don't want to go too much down the legal side, but at the end of the day, they've got a greater chance of survival if you carry out what was taught on previous first aid lessons of putting initial breaths as well as chest compressions. So if you've got your barrier device, it may give you that little bit more confidence. So very straightforward. There's a picture of a face on there with a gauze inlet. All we will do now is play that over their face. So just to recap our primary survey, let's go right back to the beginning. Got the gloves on, danger, checked for danger. Now looking for a response in this casualty. Annie, it's Andy, can you open your eyes? Can you open your eyes? Unresponsive. I've shouted for help. Can you call 999, 112, get an ambulance here, come back, let me know that's done, please. Open up the airway. On a resuscitation goal is especially designed that once we tilt the head back, right, if we let go, they reset themselves. It's to make sure when you are doing your rescue breaths for training reasons that we're doing it properly. We're not accepting it, a rescue breath, unless you're doing it properly. In other words, keep your hand on top of the forehead, and that will help resolve that situation. So I've opened up the airway. I'm now checking for breathing. Up to 10 seconds. Give the person a chance to take a breath. In this case, my resuscitation goal is not breathing. What do? I go straight to action, go straight to my CPR. Chest compressions. Don't worry about the initial rescue breaths. There's a reason for that. That person, at some point recently, has took a breath before they went unconscious on us. There is oxygen within the blood. I don't need to put any more oxygen to it. I'm going to top it up. So what I am going to do, though, is start pumping that oxygen around their body. Think of the heart like so. Boom, 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 boom. At the minute, it's not working properly or at all. I am now going to act as the heart. I am going to compress it, let it refill, compress it, refill. I'm going to do 30 compressions. We're looking at doing around 30 compressions, that's 2 every second. Using the heel of my hand, I place the heel of my hand into the bony breastplate on their chest. And then lock my hands together, lean forward, lock my arms out. Once more, I'm going to use my body weight just to compress down. I'm going to compress down around 5 to 6 centimetres, that's 2.5 inches in old money if you're still imperial. In metric, about 5 to 6 centimetres. You do this 30 times, like so. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. I then give you the rescue breaths. With the barrier device on, I pinch the nose, I tilt the head back, I seal my mouth around their mouth, making sure nowhere is going to escape. I put 2 normal breaths into the casualty like so. What I'm not trying to do at this point is inflate Richard Branson's air balloon. Okay, just normal breaths. And now times I see people giving it a real big breath. Nobody breathes like this, just normal breaths. And I'm not going to mess around. If it's real casualty, I can do this in fast time. 2 breaths, go back to 30 compressions. Now I want to look at what happens if we haven't got barrier devices. What happens if we haven't checked our first aid kit and made sure we are up to speed? You've got close to the casualty, that's your prerogative. If you want to save their life, I think there's minimum risk. You can still possibly carry out hands-only CPR. You're still doing something rather than nothing. Wouldn't recommend without barrier devices putting your mouth around their mouth, certainly with COVID. So again, hands-only then, forget that, just going to do compressions. I'm going to stop doing this on 3 occasions. 1, they come round. Yeah, brilliant. I'll stop jumping up and down their chest now. Brilliant, they come round. There's 1. What if the emergency services rock up? And they say, we'll take over from here. Great, fantastic. And the third one, a lot of people don't realise, is when you're too tight to continue. That is, I'm a relatively fit guy, not seriously. I used to be a relatively fit guy. This takes the wind out of your sails. You're doing this, you can be doing this for maybe up to 30, 40, 50, 60 an hour. Yeah, that's going to take it out of you. Nobody's saying you've got to do it. Not at all. You're doing what you want to do to try and save a life. And it could come a point you go, I haven't got anything left in me. I've done what I can do. If I do one more compression, I'm going to be laying down beside me. That's it. You've done the best you can. You're not pronouncing the bit. All you're doing is saying, I'm done, I'm spent. But if we go back to the shout for help at this point, hopefully that runner's come back to you. They've said, yes, an ambulance on their way. You could maybe just say, come over, take over from me, I'm going to get my breath back for a second, and train them up there and then on the spot, show them how to do it. This is not rocket science. They're better to do something, even if it's not 100% right, than nothing. Just to reiterate, there's the most important things. Get your barrier devices on, keep yourself safe, keep them safe. You may have COVID and you could be passing it to them. What we're going to move on to now is choking. Hospitality, I don't know how many of you are watching from the hospitality businesses. I don't want to scaremonger, I don't want to bring up horror stories or anything like that, but certainly when people, couples or families are out in restaurants having a lovely meal, the risk of choking has now been increased. People can choke. It's happened here in Hartlepool. I won't name the big, well, yes, but we can do. I mean, there was Pizza Hut with a young child, unfortunately, who was great. Frankie and Benny's in Middlesbrough, I do believe there's a story of a gentleman passed away in the gents' toilets after choking on some meat. So it can happen in establishments. Sometimes it's because when the first aid was called, there's been a lag since when they've done their first aid course. The requirement says you're supposed to be trained every 3 years. What a lot of people don't with the small print, and says Health and Safety Executive recommends, because it's only a recommendation, but they recommend we get trained annually. That's every year. But it's not a legal requirement, so a lot of people just go, leave it, forget about it. Call the first aider in. First aider comes in, they're choking, and they go, oh, I can't remember what to do. It's 2.5 years ago since I've done my first aid course. Right. Well, it's up to you. You're the employers. You're the people that's supposed to have this covered. You're the people that could possibly be the one that saves a life. I can't stress enough what an amazing feeling it is to save somebody's life. I, fortunately, have had the privilege to save a life. And how I felt afterwards was amazing. First aid, that's why I'm passionate about it. Just absolutely so forth. So what we're going to do now, I'm going to do a bit of a demonstration. I'm going to bring back in my glamorous assistant, Mark. He's going to come in and he's going to put on what's known as a choking vest. It's just a training vest. So Mark, can you just make sure your face mask is on though again, please, mate? If you just like to place that one, mate, it's been sterilized right down, okay? But you just come click yourself into that either side. I won't touch it with you, mate. Just pull it tight, reasonably tight around here. And get increasing bellies. Okay, right, fantastic. Okay, so Mark here, just out of curiosity, Mark, I mean, we haven't rehearsed this, so how do you think most people look when they are choking? Where do they point to? Oh, it's good. Really choking? Throats, there, we can tell we hadn't rehearsed this. Okay, fantastic. Yeah, so they're going to be pointing to their throat, going like they won't be able to talk. They will not be able to get air through their vocal cords because there's a choke there. Before we actually I can demonstrate it, I just want to just explain to people what actually happens so we will understand this. The human body is not daft. What it's realised is something here, let's just say a grape, a piece of meat, or whatever, has gone down in towards the windpipe instead of down towards the stomach. We have at the back of our throat a little flap of skin called an epiglottis. And when we breathe, it closes over the stomach so that it can go pass up and down through the lungs. When we swallow food, it flips over and goes over the airway so food can go down into the lungs. The problem is when we're having a lovely meal chatting to the wife, the partner, the kids, or whatever, right, and we're eating at the same time, this poor bit epiglottis doesn't know which way it can cover. It's like, should I go on this side, should I go on this side? And sometimes it gets it wrong. It's covering the wrong, in this case, it's covering the stomach, and it's left the windpipe open just as we swallowed. Let's just say a piece of meat now is heading down, we start to go down towards the lungs. Human body is not daft. Think of a muscle now, it's big muscle. What it's done is gone, hey, you shouldn't be going down there, correct? Stop you going any further down towards the lungs. The problem is, what the human body doesn't realise doing, yes, it stopped going in the lungs, but it's now trapped the foreign body, in this case, a piece of meat. That's when somebody is choking. We've probably had mild chokes at some point in their life, a bit of phlegm on the back of the throat, we've coughed it and it's cleared. We've had mild chokes, but severe chokes, slightly different, needs a bit more than just a cough. However, treatment for a choke, no different. What I'd like to do now, just lean forward for us. Yeah, that's lovely. Ask them to lean forward and try and cough it up. See if they can dislodge it by their own volume of their lungs, compress it and forcing it out. Try and come out for us, big Mark. No, it's not coming out in this situation. So what do I do next? What I do is I'm going to smack. I mean, Mark's one of my directors, so this is just pure revenge. Okay. What we do now is actually smack Mark as hard as I can. The key, however, is up to 5 times between the shoulder blades. If it came out on the first smack, I don't hit him a further 4 times just for fun. I'd like to. I mean, at the end of the day, 1 smack might dislodge it. But in this case, then, 1, no, we can come out. 2, 3, 4, 5, and it still hasn't come out yet. Mark's probably going to be very anxious at this point. He's being beaten up by me, smacking him on the back. So what am I going to do next? What I'm going to move on to now is what's known as the abdominal thrusts. Just like standing, so just so that people can see it on the film. I'm going to expect these words to today. I'm going to reach round, okay, and then I'm going to make a fist-like motion like so. With my other hand, I'm going to cup it, and I'm going to go in and up, a J-like motion. Turn back to the camera for a moment, please. If this is Mark's belly button, I'm just going to go above that, in the centre of the cross. That's where I aim to get my hand to make this J-like motion. I will demonstrate. So I've done my 5 back blows. I've asked him to cough. It hasn't come out. I've smacked him on the back between the shoulder blades with some velocity, with some force. It still hasn't come out. Lean forward. I reach around, make the fist. Cut my other hand around his fist and I go in and up. In this case, hopefully on camera, we saw something come out of the airway. I've managed to dislodge this on the first abdominal thrust because I've done the manoeuvre correctly. That can come out in the first, second, third. But let's say I've done that up to 5 times and it still hasn't come out. What do? I then go back to back blows. I go back to abdominal thrusts. If it still doesn't come out, after about 3 minutes or so, poor Mark is going to go unconscious on me. He'll lay on the floor, and I'm not going to get on the floor again, but I've got an unconscious casualty. Reason why they got unconscious, asphyxiation, not getting oxygen. I know what to do in the event of unconscious casualty, not breathing normally. CPR. Get the ambulance here. Hopefully that's covered choking, and now you know what to do. There's a couple of questions that we get asked quite regularly when we did our first aid courses about babies. If you want to turn it off, Mark, thank you much for your assistance here, mate. Glamour assistance as well. Yeah, I'll take this off now. I don't know if you've got asking you in 2 metre radius of me. What happens if it's a child? If they're a child, over 1 year old, a child means anything from that to that. You know, someone says, "Oh, how old's your son?" 5 years old, they're the same height as me. You know, but what we've got to say, a child, procedure is still the same. It's different if they're below 1 year old. Once they're a baby that's choking. One thing we wouldn't do, now thinking now about babies, they're not going to understand commands like cough it up. Yeah? What we're certainly not going to do is with their bellies, they normally have a lovely big pop belly. This guy has this amazing ability to just pop mine out. Look at that. Yeah, so we have these big pop bellies. And what happens is these organs are still sat here in the midriff. They haven't yet, when their body hasn't elongated, their body parts haven't actually gone, the organs gone to where they need to situate in their body. So we start doing abdominal thrusts on a baby. Not good, we'll kill it. Okay, so please do not be doing abdominal thrusts. Yes, lay the baby on the arm. Support the head. Smack between the shoulder blades. Again, with some force, but you're supporting the baby's head. That is important. Hopefully, because it's a milky type substance, that should be enough. If not, lay the baby back over onto your arm. 2 fingers on the breastplate, J-like motion on the breastplate, not on the abdomen. Keep the abdomen, do not touch the abdomen. I just want to cover that. But babies, when it comes to COVID, minimum risk. Yeah, juniors, minimum risks. It's more adults, so you're coming in close proximity there. And again, I'm asking him to cough it up. He's got a face mask on. Yeah, he might cough into his face mask as soon as it's come out of his body. Yeah. There's too many permutations, too many situations that I can't give an answer to every single one of them. This is, if you like, textbook how we're supposed to do it. So that's choking covered. And I've just mentioned there, first thing, just to reiterate on the PowerPoint, guys, I'll quickly just put it on the PowerPoint for you. Ask him to cough, then smack him on the back up to 5 times. Remember, only up to 5 times. Then we move into the abdominal thrust, up to 5. If it still doesn't come out, we go back to the back, and so on and so on. Hopefully that makes sense. Moving on now to shock. I mentioned earlier on, shock is something that can make us go unconscious, so therefore we're going to get close to the casualty. So what is it? This is where I'm normally trying to get a bit of information off my people I'm teaching, see what prior recognised learning and knowledge they've got. But because it's a webinar, I kind of have to just say it to you. Right, so shock is very straightforward. It's defined as the lack of oxygen in the tissues of the body. Right, it's going to be a drop because of blood volume or blood pressure. So at the minute, my body has got a load of blood in it. If we, in case you don't, I'm not aware of this. Oh, there goes my camera system. Thank you. See that, Debbie? Debbie McGee. Right, okay, yeah. At the end of the day, my body's got a lot of blood in it. If someone wants to know the ratios, roughly it's 1 pint of blood per stone in weight, up to around 12. So if I was 15, 16, 17 stone, I've still only got about 12 pints of blood in it. But if I lose some of this blood, let's say I get cut, I've got an airtight seal at the moment. My blood is on an airtight seal going around my body and all my veins, arteries and capillaries. If they get cut through, I could lose blood volume because it's going to leak out of me. I could lose pressure because I'm no longer a sealed unit. I can then go into shock. So that's what shock is. How do we recognise somebody in shock? The first thing they normally go, they go pretty pale. They're losing their blood. Even if it's not a cut, let's say it's a motion shock. They've just gone up, there's a car accident in your works car park. They're the first aider. They've run out there to deal with that casualties. They've looked into that car and they've seen blood, teeth, guts, and they just go, do you know what? That's not for me. I know I'm a first aider. That's just too much for me. Get the ambulance here. I don't feel very well myself. Yeah? That's their prerogative. Step away. They may go into shock themselves. You'll notice their skin will go probably pretty pale. You may get blue next to the tinges and things like the lips, the tip of the nose, the fingertips. This is known as cyanosis. So these are all telltale signs that somebody's going into shock. Not that we take pulses too much these days, but if you was to have a fast, weak pulse, they may have shallow breathing, like they're panting like a dog. All telltale signs that somebody's gone into shock. Treatment for it. I'll just put it up on the PowerPoint. Hopefully you just managed to get to see that on your screens. Basically, all we're going to do is lay the casualty down, raise their feet up. What the human body is trying to do at this point is take all the blood and send it to its major organs. Our major organs are between our abdomen, in this part of our body here, from here to here. That's where the majority of our organs are. So our body's going to send blood to protect them organs. It knows. It will leave the brain a little bit, it's going to send it there. Our legs contain a hell of a lot of blood. So if we was to lay down, raise them legs up and let gravity do its force, yeah, gravity will hopefully empty a little bit of blood, not all of it obviously, but some of the blood out of our legs to our major organs. The casualty should then start to feel better. Again, social distancing. If you can, lay somebody down, maybe get something along the lines of a chair, tell them to put their feet up and put their feet on the chair, then step away social distance-wise. I can't see that being a problem. Again, use initiative, use creative thinking, and then hopefully that will resolve that problem. But that's how we deal with somebody in shock. So as it just says there's a PowerPoint slide there, just giving you a quick overview. I believe these slides are going to be sent out or able to be reviewed at any moment in time. So just gives you an idea of what we're doing with somebody in shock. So the last one there, I want to just highlight, like, be prepared to resuscitate. Although shock is not high up, yeah, in the sense of triage, they can suddenly stop breathing once. Because and then obviously they go straight to the top of the triage. So then the second somebody does that, yeah, they become high priority. So just monitor it. Someone in shock, please monitor them. They are in danger, we still need to monitor it. And maybe get ambulance here if it's severe shock, certainly if they're bleeding heavily. Getting low on time now, I will cover off just a couple more things in stroke. There was adverts on the TVs not too long ago. I think a bit of funding probably dried up on this one, but it was all taught the FAST test. Okay, but let's look at the eyes. Okay, to start off with, we can have what's known as dilation of eyes. Dilation is when the pupil gets bigger, not smaller, bigger. That's a dilation. So you might have one eye really big, looking like an owl's eye, or something pinpricked in the other. We can have both eyes. I'll just put all three of them up on the screen now for you there, so that you can see them. So we've got normal eyesight, dilated, both eyes dilated. When you've got someone having a stroke, look in their eyes, see if you can see this sort of abnormality going on. So we've got this FAST test. Face. What if their face drops on one side? If someone's ever seen this, my father, bless him, he had, I can't remember the name of the condition yet now, but basically had a rash, and you could have drawn the line as neat as anything down the centre of his face. One side of his face he had the rash, the other side was totally clear. It was that. The human body works in equal opposites. So if I was to have a damaged, broken, clotted blood vessel causing a stroke in my brain, on the left-hand side of my body, it would be the right-hand side of my body that's going to respond and vice versa. And it is literally, if you used to draw a line straight up the centre of your body. So the face, has it dropped to one side? Arm, have they lost their ability? Again now, barrier devices. If you're going to start holding somebody, be that close to them, asking them to lift arms up, face masks, gloves, if you've got that to your disposal, please think COVID. Please think about putting these barrier devices on. I can't stress this enough. It's a condition you need to move fast with, hence take it fast. Get that ambulance on the way, please. So second you realise their face has dropped, their arm may have lost strength and they can't hold it up in the air or hold it, it's just flopping down beside them. Their speech, they can't speak, they can't make any sense to you. They're mumbling, yeah? In time, get the ambulance there. There is some new drugs out there that, if they're administered in a certain amount of time, can reverse the effects of a stroke, but they're time critical. I'm not here today going to talk too much about the time criticality of that, but all you need to do is remember, if you're dealing with someone with a stroke, barrier devices are quite straightforward. You can put them on to get your diagnosis. Last thing then we're going to cover today is first aid kits. I hope I've highlighted enough within my webinar today the importance of you as the first aiders. If you are your organisation's first aider, or you're thinking about getting people trained in first aid, a good training company will be really driving it home that the first aid kit is the first aider's responsibility. Yeah, and with COVID, let's make sure, please, we've got plenty of pairs of gloves, plenty of face shields. What you will find in the first aid kit these days, they'll pack it out with loads of triangular bandages that a lot of people don't know how to use and not really that useful. Yeah, because they'll pack it out and make it look like you're getting good value for money. No, good value for money these days is first aid kits. It's going to have plenty of things. Plenty of things. Maybe get yourself a good box of face shields in there, face coverings. Just get your barrier devices. Keeps you safe, keeps the casualty safe with COVID in mind. Other things, whilst we're just on the point of first aid kits, there's a couple of things now that they recommend or have even said do not have in first aid kits. And I just want to reiterate, just to add a bit of an enrichment into this webinar. Safety pins are deemed as not to be safe, so they don't need to be in a first aid kit anymore. There's more puncture wounds and stab wounds caused by safety pins than them holding a dressing together. If you know how to do a dressing properly, you won't need one. If you know how to put a triangular bandage on properly, you won't need safety pins. Safety pins should not be used for removing splinters or spelks, okay, like some people have used in the past. The safety pins is no need, they should not be in the first aid kit. There is still controversy at the moment over plasters being allowed in first aid kits. Because of people having an allergic reaction to latex. Well, you can get latex-free plasters. So there's your solution to that problem. Get yourself some hypoallergenic latex-free plasters where rashes won't occur. If it was up to me and I said to somebody, what would you rather have, a rash or let bacteria get in your body through that cut and the chance of septicemia, which do you rather have? I think they're normally the same rash. But again, I think the solution to the problem there, let's get some latex-free plasters in the first aid kits. Accident reporting, after all of this, it is the first aider's responsibility to get this recorded in the first aid accident book. What happened? Names, dates, locations, first aid, treatment given, aftermath, did we send them to the hospital, did we put them in an ambulance? Yeah. Them sort of things. Is it RIDDOR reportable? Is it so severe now that a RIDDOR report is completing on the back of this? Most managers will probably hopefully be RIDDOR trained and they will understand the requirements of RIDDOR to go, yes, now I've seen that accident, I need to get this reported up by RIDDOR through the HSE website. So again, I'm not here to teach that today, it's a bit of an insight, maybe food for thought. You guys get a chance to think about this and instigate it within your own businesses. Please make sure you've got it. Just to end more than anything, guys, always some other things here. Make sure, things like your dressings are in shape. Yeah, you've got all the things I just said about. I think I've always covered that last slide like I said, but it's in there for you when you get it. Other sort of things. There's the sort of things that's on an accident report, your dates, your times, your accidents. Again, I've covered that off of that slide up for myself. And finally, then, just to conclude, yeah, COVID is about, we need to keep ourselves safe, keep casualties safe, 100%. There's no, if you like, legal requirement to carry out first aid if you don't want to in the first place. But then I've said there's no greater reward than saving a life. It's your judgment call. It's up to you. Have you got the skills? Have you got the barrier devices? Have you got what it takes to save a life? So the answer is yes, get stuck in it. Go do it. Go be a hero. Yeah? There's no greater reward in life than that, I don't feel. Other than that, if you'd like any additional first aid training, I'm obviously going to do a little bit of a pitch here. Orange Box training, we do deliver first aid, right away from paediatric to emergency to the full 3-day refresher courses and that sort of thing. If you'd like some good high quality training and it's the sort of thing you're interested in, please give us a shout. We'll certainly come out and assist you. Who knows, you might be unlucky and get me as the trainer. Okay, so that's how we're going, guys. What I'm going to do now is open it up to any questions that people may have. If I can't answer any questions, then so be it. As far as I'm aware, that's I'm being told now there's no questions. So yeah, I'll end the seminar there. I hope you all enjoyed it. Thank you very much.